Hello, AP and CCP US history folks. Time to discuss the midterm exam. Now, as I said before, the midterm exam is no longer going to be an actual exam. It's going to be a project. I'm assigning it now. I'm giving you the resources now in order to get it done at your own pace, your own time. This is obviously exempt from your second quarter grade. This is 1/9 of your first semester grade. So getting on this early would be very beneficial. Maybe getting it done over break would then take a lot of stress away from you as you're preparing for your other classes. Usually, AP US history kind of gets shoved to the side when you start working on AP biology, when you start working on your chemistry and your English. So, I would strongly advise you to utilize your time wisely here and maybe get this out of the way early. So here's what you're doing. This worksheet is going to be under your winter break work, this midterm assignment right here. This Reasons for the Civil War is a Google Doc right here. Now, as I said in the Zoom call the other day, I have hard copies of this. So if you're somebody that wants to do this by hand, you would much rather cut and paste a little bit, then please feel free to either take one during class, which I gave most of you who are in person a folder full of this as well as the Lincoln assignment. But if you're one of the remote learners, you have basically Thursday and Friday with which to reach out to get one of those hard copies. I can either leave one in the office for you to pick up on Friday, or you can ask one of your fellow students to bring it home with them if, in fact, they live next door or at least somewhat close to where you can pick it up. So if you want a hard copy of this without having to waste your own ink at home, knock yourself out. You can email me and I will make sure to set one of those folders aside for you, not only with this document, but also the Lincoln speeches as well. So again, you have this document, which contains a multitude of different events that would have been the root causes of the Civil War. Okay, the root causes, if nothing else, of the war between the states, if you will. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at all of these events. Okay, you're going to look at Harriet Tubman escaping slavery. You're going to look at the Senate race between Douglas and Lincoln, the Declaration of Independence, Garrison publishing The Liberator, the murder of Elijah Lovejoy, all of these things, which these are events which we may or may not cover in the video series that I'm putting together this week. Some of them might be in your textbook. Some of them might be even outside the textbook. You know, the murder of Elijah Lovejoy is something that doesn't particularly happen, is not really contained within the textbook as much as it is a regional issue, but it spawns a whole host of other things. So you're going to need to look these things up. You're going to need to select 10. So out of this list of about 20 to 22 events, you're going to need to select 10 total. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to paint a picture of how we got to the Civil War. You're going to align the 10 in the order that they happen timeline wise. You're going to show a cause and effect relationship. So how do you lose points? Get them out of context, get them out of a general line here. So you do need to pay attention to the timeline, which is why I printed them off for you so that you have the ability to cut them out and kind of arrange them. Now, you can do this electronically too. Obviously, you can highlight these little sections and put them into a PowerPoint if it's easier for you to do it electronically. If you don't want to deal with paper, you can do it that way. But you're going to do 10 events in order that show because of this, it led to this. Because of this, it led to this. And of course, you're culminating in the Civil War. So your 11th event should be the Civil War beginning. Okay. So again, all of these are the causes of the Civil War. All right. And all of these have been declared as being part of the buildup to the Civil War, of course. Historians have debated which of these events are more important. These could be things like, congressional acts like the Wilmot Proviso, Slave Trade Act bans. You could talk about the ratification of the Constitution. So we're extending all the way back to the very beginning of the Republic. You can say, hey, this happened from the start. We were building on it because even Franklin very famously says that we will rue the day. Or I'm sorry, it was John Adams was basically saying we're going to build this on top of slavery. It's going to crumble. Like we should be handling this issue now. And Franklin kind of says, hey, that's for another generation to figure out. And even Jefferson kind of says the same thing, that it's like grabbing a wolf by the ears. You don't like it, but you don't dare let go. The idea that, hey, the slavery issue is not done. We're going to have issues with it. So obviously all of these issues could be argued that they had something to do with the start of the Civil War. There's no right or wrong answer here so long as you back yourself up. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to look through all these different events. You're going to select 10, like I said. You're going to show how they come in a cause and effect relationship, going from whatever your earliest event is all the way up to the Civil War. Obviously, you can use your textbook, you can use Google, you can use any resource available to you to do your research, but it's going to have to be fairly well researched. And what you're going to do is you can either physically cut and paste these out, and then you're going to give me a paragraph explanation of how this event not only plays into the Civil War eventually, but how it leads to the next thing or how it has an impact. Now, they don't have to be explanations that say this event then leads to this one specifically. You can say this event helps to lead to events 3, 7, and 9. Like you can say that, hey, there are a bunch of different things that are happening to where it doesn't have to lead directly, one leads to 2. You can say one leads to the fourth event that you're going to talk about, and that 2 and 3 are related. However you want to make the argument is totally fine, but you're going to show how this stuff builds. Okay, it's a good skill to work with. Is you're going to show how this is a progression, that each one of these things is upsetting a new group of people and driving a wedge between the North and the South of the United States. So that's what you're doing. And like I said, there's no paper that you're writing per se. You are writing, you're going to select these. Okay, so you're going to, let's say you select the Harriet Tubman right there. You're going to select Harriet Tubman escapes slavery and begins work on the Underground Railroad, which may or may not be one of your events, but for argument's sake, it's going to be ours here. So, all right, you're going to put that on the slide, or you're going to cut it out and put it on your poster or whatever you're going to do. You make a scrapbook, whatever, and you are going to paste this that I gave you, the little readout and the picture, and then you are going to discuss it within a paragraph. Now, let's again discuss what a paragraph is, because some of you are really skimping and you're losing a ton of points for doing it. A paragraph is not 2 fragmented sentences where you barely discuss anything. Some of you are getting awfully lazy with your writing. A paragraph is you're making a specific argument in at least 5 well-developed sentences or 7 somewhat developed sentences. I'll settle for either one, but you're developing your arguments. Again, you're not wrong so long as you support yourself. So you should be showing that you are learning this stuff from the videos, or you're learning this stuff from the textbook, or you're finding things on the internet. Now, this should not be cutting and pasting from the internet either. You're going to lose points in a massive way for doing that. Again, what you're doing is you're submitting either a PowerPoint, a slideshow, Google Slide, or you're submitting an actual physical poster or physical scrapbook where you did some cutting and pasting and you handwrite it in. However you want to present this is totally fine. You're going to submit this finished product by the 13th. Okay. And again, it should be, here's this event, which then leads to this event. That paragraph's explaining how they're linked, or at least there is a link somewhere within your project. So every one of these pictures should have a paragraph associated with it, talking about the importance of that event and how it's connected to something later. And obviously the last one is the Civil War. Okay. Now you don't have to discuss the Civil War. When you get to the Civil War, that 11th block, if you will, we're just assuming that that's where it ends for right now. We'll continue the discussion on the Civil War when we get back from break. So at the end of this, I should have 10 well-developed paragraphs that show linkage between one event and at least something later on. That's kind of the general crux of this. Now, again, you can submit this. If you're doing a Google slide, you would submit it through Google, just as simple as going into Classroom and hitting submit. If you're doing this physically and you're in person, obviously when you get back, you can submit it by hand. Now, let's say we go full remote. Let's say, there's a lot of what ifs. Then you can take a picture of your assignment. It's just as simple as taking a high resolution picture, because I can zoom in and I can see what you are doing. If worse comes to worse, we can hop on office hours. We can have a Zoom where, for those of you that are doing this physically, you can kind of show me the project on camera and kind of explain what you did. Either way is fine. But if you're going to do this physically by hand, we may not be in school on the 13th for you to actually hand it in, because that week before we are going remote, there's no guarantee that next week we'll be back in the classroom. I'm not saying we won't be there, but that there's always kind of that question out there. So doing it physically is fine. Just make sure you understand you may be having to either take a picture or hop onto a Zoom meeting that week just to at least present your project. If you do it through Google Slides, then obviously you just need to submit by sharing it. That's kind of the crux of this project. This is your midterm, okay? This will be 1/9 of your grade. It's showing that you kind of understand the antebellum period. You understand the linkage between the founding of the republic, the early stages of the presidencies, and all the way through the antebellum to understand how the Civil War works. If you have any questions over this, if you have any concerns over this, obviously reach out. Again, I reiterate, if you want a hard copy of this, then reach out and I will make sure that it's set aside for you. Other than that, reach out through email with questions, concerns. We can have a Zoom conference if you need this further explained, and certainly you can reach out over Christmas break, via email, and I'll try and get back with you in a timely manner to help you through this stuff. But please don't wait till January 12th to try and get this done. If you're reaching out on January 12th going, I don't understand this, then you're going to fail your midterm. Okay. I'm not going to deal with that on the day before. The day before should be like last minute, small little questions about, well, what format did you want it in? Or, hey, I'm struggling with this one event to understand it. It's not, hey, where do I begin again? And how do I format this? And how long are the paragraphs again? Like if you're doing that, then I'm just going to go ahead and mark down a 0. So please make sure you're getting on this early. I'm giving it to you about a month in advance, roughly. You got 4 weeks to get it done. There's no reason why you can't get this done on time. Again, reach out if you have any questions. Otherwise, stay safe and stay healthy out there, folks.